So as the temperature drops, you can extend your hammock season with some extra accessories from Snugpak. Now they just came out with some brand new gear to add to their existing hammock setups, which would be the tropical hammock and then the jungle hammock, which has a mosquito net. So today we have the Snugpak hammock quilt, the Snugpak hammock under blanket, and the hammock cocoon. Now I was going to do separate videos on these accessories, but I think it just makes more sense to do them all in one. Now Snugpak also sent me their latest version of their hammocks, which come in a coyote color. So not only can you get them in the olive, which I've shown before, I have other videos on the tropical and the jungle hammock, even a video where I show them side by side. Those were in the olive color. They have a new coyote color, so we're going to take a look at that as well today. So let me go ahead and get a tropical hammock set up and a jungle hammock set up, and we'll take a look at these awesome accessories. The hammock cocoon weighs in at 4.3 pounds. Then underneath it, the under blanket, which you can use on both hammocks, weighs in at 2.9 pounds. And then finally the hammock quilt at the bottom there, which is basically just the top section of a sleeping bag, weighs in at 1.8 pounds. Now the cocoon is very easy to install. You simply just unclip one of the sides of your hammock and you just thread it on. It threads on very easily, and then you can use the same clip to clip the hammock on, and it has these two nylon loops on the end which you clip into the hammock as well. So same exact thing on the other side. You just run it through the hammock and then you clip on the two ends of the nylon. This is what it looks like on the ground. You can see it's just like a banana peel and just slips right on over the hammock. Has a full length two-way zipper, which is nice, and then on the inside here you have a little zippered pocket, handy for stashing things like keys or a light. The cocoon is kind of like a top and bottom quilt, and what's nice is that it stays underneath the hammock, so you're not going to lose your loft. Anytime you press insulation together, whether it's in your home, in a sleeping bag, or in a blanket, every time you press that insulation together, it basically loses its loft and it loses its insulation value. So you would simply climb into the hammock like normal, and then you can zip yourself in and you'll have a nice quilt on the bottom and on the top of you. Now keep in mind this only works with the tropical hammock because of the way that the jungle hammock works with the mosquito net. It's not going to work with that setup. And then we can zip ourselves into the cocoon. So I can already tell how cozy this is. It's very warm. And again, since this hangs below you, you're not going to lose that loft by compressing it. Same with this quilt on the top. You're not going to lose this loft. Now, in a very cold condition, you could even partner this up with a sleeping bag and you'd be nice and warm. Now the cocoon has the travel soft fill, just like the jungle blanket. If you look close here, you can see that it has the micro diamond fabric, and it also has the Paratax antibacterial properties to it. So it's going to help cut down any sort of bacterial growth and keep it smelling nice and fresh. Since this system simply slides onto the hammock, you can use it with any other similar hammock system. The only con that I noticed is that the outside zippers have a pull on them, but the inside zippers don't. So it can be kind of hard to pull up when you're on the inside, but that's a super easy fix. You could either swap the pull to the other zipper or just put another pull on. I might even tie on some brightly colored paracord, making it easier to see at night. So this is what the underquilt looks like when installed. Now, the first time I sat down in this, I had it way too tight. I ripped out the nylon webbing. Their instructions aren't that great. They tell you to tie this to here and tie that to there. They certainly need to come up with some better instructions. But basically the point is that you don't want to have these supporting any weight, and you want to have it pretty loose. For some reason, when I doubled these up, they were way too tight and it ripped out of there. So that's sort of my fault, but they certainly need to get some better instructions. But basically the general idea is just take the shock cord from the 4 points here and then just tie it up loosely, or you can use another carabiner like I did to clip it on to either your ridge line or, in this case, the same support as I used for the hammock. So after you've got the quilt centered and you've got your shock cord tied out so that it's not so tight, you just get into the hammock like normal, and then the quilt should essentially just hang underneath you. Again, you don't want it to be pressing, the hammock to be pressing down on it, because then of course you're going to lose your loft and you're going to lose your insulation. You know, it's going to protect you against the wind, and then it's also going to give you some warmth underneath the hammock. So I've got it set up pretty perfectly now, and I can see it's on the other side equally as well. And although I'm sitting in the under blanket, it's not compressing it, so it works perfectly like that. You want to just make sure that the under quilt is centered and then it's hanging down low enough so that when you sit in the hammock, you're not actually pulling down on the hammock itself. You can see here that I tried to follow their instructions and I doubled these up, and on the other side it just made it too tight. So right now I just have those two off and have the same outside tie outs tied on both sides, and that seems to work pretty well. Now the underquilt has the same softy fill as their softy elite sleeping bags, so that's cool. I know that those are very warm. My softy elite bags are very warm. It's also got the ripstop fabric there, so it's going to hold up really well. Now this is the overquilt, and you can see it's just that. It's basically just like half a sleeping bag, and this one has the softy fill as well, which is cool. So if you combine the overquilt with the underquilt, you're essentially putting a sleeping bag on top and below you in your hammock system. And of course then you could also have a sleeping bag, and that's what can get you down into the cooler temperatures and extend this into 3 seasons or even 4 seasons. So you can see here it's got the same material, and then it's got these side flaps which are cool. So when it's over you, you're essentially just going to tuck down the side flaps on both sides of you. It helps it not to move off you in the middle of the night. And then another cool feature is on the underneath here, it's got a foot box. So when you're in the hammock, you can slide your feet in the foot box, and it's going to give you more warmth for your feet. Now, as I said earlier, the overquilt and the underquilt will work with pretty much any hammock system, and it will work with the jungle hammock, which has the bug net. The Cocoon that I showed you earlier will only work with the tropical hammock with no bug net. And then I can throw the quilt over me, and it's very nice to have that foot box, which essentially is going to hold the bottom in place. You can see I've got my feet in the foot box there, which is nice, and then the rest will come up towards you, and you can tuck the side flaps right down underneath you. So you're essentially in a sleeping bag without being in a sleeping bag, and I really like that because I generally will sleep with 1 foot out of a sleeping bag, and I tend to get hot even on cooler nights. So I've got the quilt on the top, and then I've got my under blanket underneath me, and then of course I can zip myself up here and be fully protected from the bugs. So as you can see, some very cool new products from Snugpak, which will help you extend your hammock season. The Cocoon is awesome. It's sort of just like a banana peel for your hammock. It works with any hammock as long as it doesn't have a ridge line. Very simple to install. You simply just thread your hammock through it, clip it on both ends, and you're good to go. The only con on that one is that I would put some higher visibility paracord, maybe some orange or some yellow paracord on the inside zipper, because it was sort of hard to find even in the daytime. So I'd want to make that a little bit more visible. Otherwise, the build quality is great, and the Cocoon was very comfortable. On a hammock like the jungle hammock with the ridge line and the bug net, you can use the underquilt and the overquilt, or one or the other. Very comfortable. They have that softy fill, which is great. The underquilt certainly needs some better instructions when it comes to how to set it up. It's got those 4 webbing tie-outs on the end, and essentially all you need to do is make sure that it's tied up so that it stays in place, but you don't want it to support any weight. For some reason the one side was too tight, error on my part, and when I got in it ripped the webbing. So I'm going to contact them and make sure that they know that they have to have some better instructions when it comes to how to set it up. When you do get it set up properly, it works great. It stays right in the center, and it does protect you all the way underneath without compressing the insulation. As I said, with all 3 of these products, you don't want to compress the insulation, because we all know that when you compress insulation, it loses its capabilities to keep you warm. The overquilt is pretty cool. Instead of just having a blanket on you, it's got those wraps on the side that you can wrap down to keep it in place, and then I really like the foot box that'll keep it up on your feet. If you've ever tried to hammock camp with a blanket, it'll fall back down on you in the middle of the night, or if you toss and turn a little bit, sometimes it can go underneath you. So it's cool that they've made that quilt so that you have that foot box and you have those flaps underneath, essentially creating a sleeping bag on top of you and below you. It's very cool that the hammocks now come in that coyote color, and of course you can use their all-weather shelter that I've shown you in a previous video to keep you nice and dry underneath either setup. If you wanted it even warmer, you could use an additional sleeping bag, maybe their jungle bag or one of their Softy Elite bags. You could use that with either system, either the Cocoon, you could put it inside there, and then essentially you'd have 2 sleeping bags and it'd be very warm. And you could also use it with the underquilt and overquilt and simply just put the quilt above all of that. So a great way to extend your season and get you down into those cooler temps, and I look forward to using these systems as the weather gets cooler. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you want to see my previous videos on the all-weather shelter or the setup and takedown of their tropical hammock or their jungle hammock, remember now they come in coyote colors, but I have their olive colors set up in other videos. Make sure you go back into my videos and you can search for Snugpak, and you'll see those products as well as all the other products that I've reviewed from Snugpak. There's some of their tents, their sleeping bags. I've even reviewed some of their coats. So great products. I think they're priced right. They're not on the highest end of the build quality, but they're not on the highest end of price either, and I think you get what you pay for with Snugpak products. You get a quality product and it's not going to break the bank. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Please give it a big thumbs up for me. Leave me some comments below on what you think about these hammock accessories. I do try to answer each and every comment that you guys leave. Make sure you share this video to your friends on social media, Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. And those of you with Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, just follow my links below and you can give it a follow or a like. As always, guys, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe by clicking that red subscribe button for more videos.